Keep up with the night owls making our city buzz from sunset to sunrise grâce à ce podcast officiel de la ville d'Ottawa, présenté par le Bureau de la vie nocturne. Je m'appelle Zoë Argiropulos-Hunter et vous êtes à l'écoute du podcast officiel du Bureau de la vie nocturne de la ville d'Ottawa, enregistré à FONO au centre-ville. Tonight on Ottawa at Night, I'm joined by 3 guests shaping Ottawa after dark, whether it's on stage, behind the scenes, or inside City Hall. First up, Amy Ede, communication strategist, writer, community advocate, and someone with one of the busiest calendars in the city. Next, festival founder, musician, and pillar of Ottawa's heavier music community, Erin Maiden, founder of Feral Femme Fest and frontwoman of the Feral Union. Et finalement, quelqu'un avec un des titres les plus discutés ici à Ottawa, mon collègue, le commissaire à la vie nocturne, Mathieu Grondin.
Bonsoir, Ottawa.
Amy, Erin, et Mathieu, welcome and bienvenue to Ottawa at Night. Amy, let's start with you. You've experienced nightlife in Ottawa from so many different angles, but something that people might not know about you is that you've moonlighted as a performer yourself. Can you say more?
I have. I was in a band called Ginny. I was one of 2 backup singers. And I also did some cabaret work this week.
When I was 6 years old, my uncle actually gave me the nickname Erin Maiden, and he would call me that. I don't know if it's because of the music I listened to when I was very young, but he seemed to know back then that I was going to be in a band. And I was very late in my life when I started to become part of a band, actually. I used to do a lot of solo performing, to backing tracks because I live in a small town and I didn't exactly know any people to play music with. So I was, I think I was 24 when I started to play in the band that I am in now, which is my original band, which has evolved member-wise. But it turns out that I ended up meeting my husband through this band who plays in the band. So it's become part of my life, pretty much.
Et Mathieu, je sais que la plupart des gens à toi te connaissent comme quelqu'un avec un titre, mais pas nécessairement pour vos connaissances musicales. Peux-tu parler un peu de ton carrière comme DJ?
Ma carrière de DJ, oui. Moi, quand j'avais 15 ans, donc c'était au milieu des années 90, en 95, je suis allé dans un rave, puis comme Obélix, je suis tombé dans la soupe. Et j'en suis jamais revenu. Donc, à l'âge de 16 ans, je me suis acheté 2 tables tournantes, puis un mixeur, 2 turntables and a microphone. Et j'ai commencé à mixer. Et puis, je fais encore ça des fois. Et j'ai mixé à peu près, je pense, tous les genres de musique. J'ai commencé, je mixais du gabber, c'est du hardcore techno. C'est comme du heavy metal, mais en techno. Nice. Puis après ça, j'ai commencé, j'étais plus dans le hard techno. Après ça, quand j'étais jeune, les gens me disaient « Ah, à un moment donné, tu vas avoir une phase, c'est parce que t'es jeune, puis tu vas écouter du house. » Puis j'ai dit « Jamais de la vie, moi, j'étais un métal. » Et finalement, j'ai mixé du house. Et aujourd'hui, je mixe du disco.
Super, mais merci à vous trois de me joindre ce soir. I know that this group likes to talk and these mics are on, so why don't we warm things up with a friendly night chat? Ooh. So to start, I want to first know what made nightlife real for you beyond just going out.
Oh my goodness. It's so hard to make friends in this city. So the way I got into nightlife was I started volunteering. I volunteered at Ottawa Architecture Week and a couple of other places. Oh, Hope Volleyball Summerfest. And then finally I landed at SAW and started working the bar at SAW. And I just thought, this is where I want to be.
Quand on a eu la pandémie, c'est là où j'ai vraiment réalisé l'importance de ce que j'aimais vraiment dans la vie nocturne. C'est le côté, la socialisation, le côté communautaire de la vie nocturne. Oui, on organise des événements. Quand j'étais jeune, en fait, j'organisais des gros raves, puis je faisais de l'argent avec ça. Puis après ça a été plus vraiment la culture, la musique et tout. Mais quand la pandémie est arrivée, quand tout a fermé, j'ai vraiment vu l'impact sur mes amis, mes pères, comment ça les a affectés, cette fermeture-là, durant la pandémie. Puis c'est là que ça m'a fait réaliser l'importance communautaire de la vie nocturne. Puis comment, pour beaucoup de gens qui sortent la nuit, it's their chosen family. See?
Yeah, just to axe on that, for me, I think I realized it was more than just going out when I started to be on stage versus just going out. You know, in your young life, it's like, just going through a breakup, I'm going to go out and own it and gain my independence again. And it was all about just going out. And when I transitioned to performing on stage and I witnessed the way, people came out because they felt lonely. They came out because they were struggling and wanted to be inspired by music. Some came out for just the music, but a lot came out to be a part of something bigger. And you could feel it when you're on stage, and it's such a beautiful thing because they are there to gain some sort of perspective or inspiration, or you know what I mean? So it's so much more than just having a drink. It's bringing together people who wouldn't normally, like you said, know each other or ever meet otherwise.
Yeah.
And here we are congregated in a crowd, just taking in the authenticity that's happening on the smaller stages in the city.
Je pense qu'un sentiment qu'on voit souvent, c'est que les personnes pensent que la vie nocturne, ou plutôt travailler au milieu nocturne, c'est juste du fun et du divertissement. Mais qu'est-ce que le public devrait savoir de la réalité de soutenir une culture nocturne?
I think something that audiences are not entirely aware of when it comes to nightlife is the amount of unpaid or underpaid work that goes into making nightlife survive. And it's not just the artists, it's the venue owners, it's, the promoters that are just trying to get bodies out. It's, the photographers, the videographers, the sound guy, the barmaids or the barman. I know I'm probably forgetting some. There's a lot of...
The bardays.
There's a lot of unpaid or underpaid work that goes into keeping this machine rolling. And I think that I commend everyone that works to keep it going because they're doing it out of straight love for the scene as well.
But you're right, night work in general, even if we widen the scope outside of nightlife, it's an invisibilized work.
It is.
People go to the office on Monday morning and the office is clean and they don't realize that
That's
someone
right.
cleaned it in the evening shift or the night shift.
Exactly.
And it's the same if you want to get food at the McDonald's. Someone is working there the night shift. And if you take your train early in the morning or your plane early in the morning, someone works so you can have breakfast take that plane.
Like even for myself, I'm just a singer. I always say that. And when I started getting into the industry, I got to see all the work that the promoters do and the sound, because I organized the festival and I hadn't done it before. It's a lot of work. These promoters do it week in, week out, And then the sound people, the people behind the scenes just running the whole thing, there's a lot going on there that I myself didn't realize.
Thanks so much for bringing attention to people like the bookers and the venue owners. I haven't thought enough, I don't think, about how much work they go into and how much of it is vastly unpaid or underpaid. I know a lot about the artists. Like my friend Leslie was the one who brought me into the band. And the reason she can make a band work is because she's doing a bunch of the work. And then she was in the band Bonnie Doon and they shared stuff too. But she's just a go-getter and really has her eyes on the prize at all times with getting more, well, at the NAC we would call it bums in seats.
Yeah.
And we've touched on this a little bit, and I'm curious to dig deeper into this. Something that's always really stood out to me as someone that's always been in Ottawa is that I think this city is really made up of a lot of humble players that have really impactful work, whether it's, grassroots festivals or DIY artist promoters or some of the small spaces that sometimes get taken for granted. Ottawa is really made up of a lot of very hardworking people. So I'm curious to know your take on how you think these smaller event spaces or people contribute to the city's reputation just as much as these larger cultural institutions, for example.
I think they make the fabric of nightlife. They're the ones who make the night beat pulse of the city. I think some people might come for major events and festivals, and that's fine. But when they're going to go out in the market, they're going to go out in Elgin, they're going to go out in the city, and there's those smaller spaces like here where we are tonight that they are making it day in and out, like every weekend. They're making nightlife, so it's not just like doing one big thing. So we need both because we need those major events to attract visitors, obviously. But these smaller, when I go to New York, I've never been to New York for a festival. I go to New York because it's New York, and some venues like here FONO, like it's a listening bar, and I want to go to in New York. And I don't really care who's the DJ. I just want to go to that space because I know it's going to be people like me that are there. In fact, pour pour ça, moi, je pense que c'est vraiment important de soutenir les plus petites espaces, les plus petites salles de spectacle, les plus petits bars, parce que c'est eux qui donnent l'identité de la ville la nuit.
And when you're catering to a major audience, the limits of what you can do are a lot more constrained. So in those small places, people have more chance to experiment.
Yeah.
And it's bringing in people who might otherwise not get those opportunities, and of course build them up to move to bigger venues. Maybe they'll never go to bigger venues because what they do is really cool and grassroots, and they want to keep it there.
In terms of grassroots, obviously this festival was it was born of basically, I hate this whole notion of a large festival releasing a bill and people going straight online to complain about it. I hate that. It hurts our scene. Just because you're not liking what's on the bill doesn't mean that it's bad. Do you know what I mean?
It's not for you.
If
not everything has to be for you.
No, but it's if you're mad because your band is not on that bill, start creating opportunities for your band, for your brand, for your genre. You know, I am of the heavier genre. We often hear flack in the community about how there's not enough for them and they're overlooked and it's too heavy. Yes, there is a stigma around that. I didn't want to complain about it, so I just created a space. Yes, a lot of bills do not have enough women on them. It's a known fact. It's factual. That's why I wanted to create this festival. And I think that if we all just buckle down and start creating what we think is missing, the whole offering that the city will have will just be that much stronger. You know?
Just don't read the comments online. This is my advice.
I skip through them, and if I know them well enough, I tell them to stop.
I have a question to ask both Erin and Amy on this notion of making space. We talk a lot about what inclusivity means to different communities, and of course that means very different things depending on the community that you're a part of or the communities that you work with. So in your experiences, whether it's as a festival founder or someone that's, again, worn many hats in many nightlife spaces, what does making an inclusive and welcoming nightlife space look like for you?
I think that we trip on titles and, like labels too much. I think it's very simple. I think when you have a space where you feel okay to be yourself and that you feel safe, that's inclusivity. And at the end of the day, everyone will know if it's genuine or if it's performative. You know?
I think inclusivity also means asking who's not there and why.
Yes.
One of my big tripping points and something I have not figured out is when I'm on my way specifically to Indigenous events that are free and I'm walking down Elgin and I'm thinking, oh, here's like a group of people that I know and I could invite them. They're on the street. This is a free event. Do they want to go? If not, why? There are so many questions to ask there. So I've been through the journey of how will this be a safe space for them? And I do not have an answer, but the number one thing about inclusivity is if we are saying things are inclusive, everyone has to be welcome. And I do want to circle back on the thing about getting those comments. As a commenter, just wonder what is the point before you comment. What is the point? How is this making things better? Do you need to be heard about this here? Maybe just the commenters could do a better job.
Yeah, if it's not actionable, then I don't want to hear it. Yeah. Mathieu, I am going to ask you about the online comments. I'm sorry. I don't think we could get through this interview without me bringing it up. But I think this was a good segue. Since moving to Ottawa, Mathieu, what keeps you up more at night? Is it the municipal bureaucracy or is it the online comments about who you are and what you're doing?
Oh, nice.
A little bit of both. The bureaucracy moves slowly, and I've spent my life in advocacy, defending nightlife, but also pushing cities to create these types of positions to take care of nightlife. There's 17,000 employees at the City of Ottawa. There's one person that works full time on managing and developing nightlife. So.
Is that you?
That's me. 1.5 because now I have Zoe to help me out. But if you say like if you think Ottawa needs more vibrancy, and I think it's a good investment for the city to have someone to take care of it. So would I like it to move faster sometimes? Yes, a obviously. Can we do more? Yes, obviously. But the online comments, that keeps me a bit more awake. I'm not going to say that it doesn't touch me. It doesn't. Obviously, it's been a learning curve because I've been on that other side before. I've been the one commenting and criticizing governments and people who have positions. So I understand where they come from. I understand what their expectations are. Some of them are a bit far-fetched. I'm not going to bring back $5 bar rail. That's outside of my powers. But yeah, some of the comments about how I look, my you become a public figure, so it's like your haircut gets criticized. People think this guy looks like he's going to bed at 8 p.m. and this is kind of funny though because I know who I am, so I know I've spent my life in after hours. So
we were DJing together last weekend until 3 a.m. so that comment made me laugh. To move on to a more lighthearted question for the three of you around the table, I want you to tell me about an influential moment in your nightlife trajectory thus far that is like quintessentially Ottawa, or maybe that had a really strong impact on you.
In my musical career, I've opened for a lot of big names and played a lot of big fairs, big stages, and I have to say that during Feral Femme Fest, the sea of people that were there, and just loving it, and all the comments about how much they felt like it was needed. I wasn't expecting that. It came as a shock to me. I, for the first time in my life, cried on stage. It was just a touching moment because I didn't know how well it was going to go over, right? It was, we had to change venues and stuff. I was like, we opened up applications. We got applications from across the country. And in the comments, there's like, we need this. And I was like, oh, wow. So I think that for me, and it wasn't even, the moments that touched me the most were not even when I was on stage. It was when I was just in the crowd watching and they lifted this woman in her wheelchair in the front of the crowd. And I was just like, wow, this is incredible. And for me, that was just the cherry on top. It's going to be hard to top.
Mathieu, as-tu jamais pleuré devant un public durant un des sets de DJ?
Non, mais j'ai pleuré sur les sets de DJ de d'autres, par exemple. Ouais. Ça, définitivement. Ce que j'ai bâti aussi autour de le Nightlife Advocacy, que j'ai commencé à Montréal, puis que là, est comme passé du advocacy à bureaucracy ici à Ottawa. mais c'est parfait parce que c'était ça le chemin qu'on voulait faire. On voulait rentrer la vie nocturne dans le gouvernement pour que les gens comme nous soient représentés, parce que les gens qui prennent les décisions au gouvernement, c'est des gens qui se lèvent de bonne heure puis qui se couchent de bonne heure. Bon, je comprends qu'il y en a peut-être des enfants, je ne parle pas de toi nécessairement, mais il faut amener cette compréhension-là de c'est quoi la réalité de la vie nocturne dans les postes de décision, dans puis c'est ça qu'Ottawa a fait qui est complètement génial, puis qui était peut-être unexpected, là. Mais en même temps, il y avait peut-être la meilleure place pour faire ça, c'était peut-être Ottawa, parce que c'est le centre du gouvernement, quelque part. Donc, où commencer pour rentrer la vie nocturne dans le fonctionnariat? C'était probablement ici. Puis c'est sûr que les défis sont grands. On veut se défaire de cette réputation-là. Les gens ont des attentes très grandes là, sur c'est quoi ce poste-là et tout. Je suis parti de Montréal. J'ai laissé derrière moi, tu sais, ma blonde, mes nièces, mes neveux, ma mère qui est veuve, mes amis, parce que je crois dans cette cause-là. I believe in this. Puis c'est ça que je trouve qui me garde en vie ici, tu sais, malgré tous les commentaires en ligne.
Oh, ça me touche, Mathieu. Ça, c'est très beau. Once I used to work at the bar in the Bronson Center when the format was a little bit different there, so I knew some people around there. And my colleague, Megan Murphy, who did the design for this place, and I were going to see Jeremy Dutcher and a bunch of other artists. For some reason, we were late. Because I knew people, we got up on the balcony, and I just remember it being the two of us, and he started playing, and we both just started streaming tears. It was this really intimate experience, and it's just classic Ottawa that if you happen to know someone, they might do a little favor for you, and it's always really cool. the other thing that really impacted me lately was at Saw Gallery. Catherine Tecani had a show, and they shouted me out in the opening comments.
Oh, wow.
I had shown them her new work just on my phone. I was out with some artists and said, I'm really excited about this new work Catherine has going. And it became this ongoing story with my trip to Writers Festival to interview Quill Christie Peters, and this special... It's a cruising spot across the river, and it's also traditionally, as I'm told, a place that people used to, moms mostly, parents used to bathe their babies and bathe. So it's a traditional gathering spot for the peoples, the Anishinaabe here. And she'd taken these photos there, and she said she was just out on her bike, and she just thought these rocks are perfect. So she takes these amazing nude self photos of her, and then she has her baby as well. So they're just stunning photos, and I just pulled those out, like, take a look. And that inspired them to move their whole calendar around and give her a show. And they shouted me out. Wow. At which point I'm thinking, am I making a difference just by hanging out?
Mm-hmm. Cool. Yeah. Nightlife isn't just fun and games. It's making a difference just hanging out. Well said.
It's connecting.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Pour notre prochaine partie du podcast, je vais maintenant instiguer un peu de compétition avec un jeu de trivia à propos du nightlife ici à Ottawa. And these questions were pulled directly from Ottawa nightlife history, from Ottawa nightlife culture, and even from the nightlife office strategy. So if Mathieu gets these wrong...
La stratégie, je suis posé le savoir. L'histoire d'Ottawa, ça fait juste 2 ans que je suis là, donc j'espère que vous allez avoir des meilleures réponses que moi.
Can we start like 1,000 years ago? Because I'm way better at this.
So I hope you all brought your thinking caps. Are we ready for these buzzers to get some action? Question number 1. Roughly how much spending did Ottawa's nightlife economy generate before 2020, according to the city's strategy documents? Was it A, 500 million, B, 1.99 billion, or C, 1.3 million?
B.
Yeah, that's right.
That's 1.99 billion. Yeah.
She's coming for the crown.
Yeah. And we're doing a second economic impact assessment this year. So we're going to see where we're at post-pandemic, because this was before pandemic.
Oh, wow.
In the economy we are at right now, of this post-pandemic economy, like how well we are faring as a city compared to other cities of our size. And when we look at the numbers, we have a 14% rise of visitation to the Byward Market after 6 p.m. in the last 2 years. It shows that something is happening, and that, you have those investments like history, like Hard Rock, like all those hotels are popping up.
Well, if you get to talk about numbers, I get to talk about numbers too.
Go ahead.
For every $1 invested in the Alienate Festival in Iqaluit, which is their big festival, it generates $11 for the local economy.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's what
incredible.
That's what the power of culture is.
I was like, I love investments. They're cool.
And you're right. If history is coming here, that means because there's something worth
happening.
coming for, right?
Mm-hmm. They make those decisions.
That's
they are
right.
on investment because they know their numbers. They know what's happening.
Previous Ottawa at Night guest, China Doll, lived in this Ottawa building before it became a restaurant.
Let's just see.
That restaurant is A, Arlo, B, North and Navy, or C, Mama Teresa's.
C'est North and Navy.
Yeah.
Je sais parce que j'ai écouté tous les épisodes.
OK, question numéro 3. Les résidents d'Ottawa peuvent profiter d'une soirée de danse à ce musée. Le musée en question est...
Nature Nocturne.
Well, that's the name of the event, but what museum is it?
Museum of Nature.
Okay.
But they also have those headphones on dances now at the museum. That's
C'est
across the
Silent
river,
disco.
and that's on the other side of the river.
C'est l'autre côté. Ouais. C'est le premier événement où je suis allé quand je suis arrivé après avoir pris le poste de commissaire. C'est le premier. Il y avait une nature nocturne, c'est là que je suis allé.
And?
Oh, don't put them on the spot.
C'est génial, il y a tellement de choses, il y a tellement de monde. Je veux dire, c'est vraiment il y a plein d'enfants aussi.
No noise complaints?
Je l'ai jamais assisté encore.
Non, t'es jamais allé?
Non.
Ah,
Non,
mais
moi
je vais
non
t'amener
plus.
la prochaine fois.
Okay.
Moi non plus,
I'll hold you to that.
Play.
They're going to need headphones. We're still going to be loud even if you have headphones.
It's definitely getting late here on set, and I know that all of us probably have things to get to after this. So thank you three for joining me tonight on this episode of Ottawa at Night. Avant de vous souhaiter une bonne soirée, est-ce que vous avez un dernier mot à partager pour notre public?
Soutenez la vie nocturne. Et si vous pensez qu'il manque quelque chose à la vie nocturne de votre ville, créez-le.
Hey, that was my line.
Please go see something interesting and different. Not the thing you used to be a fan of 20 years ago. If we're going to keep growing as a community, we're going to need some fresh stuff. We have to support it.
That's true. And other than the great advice that's already been given, just another perspective when we think about when we're commenting online, complaining about events that are going on. Sometimes people who are debating possibly attending an event that they've never been to before, sometimes the comments that they see online are what make or break them not actually going. So if there's an issue going on in the scene or an event that you didn't like, better to take it up the proper channels, not online, because it'll deter new people from going. You see things often where people are like, oh, that doesn't seem safe to me, I'm not going to go, but they were debating going. So just be mindful of what you're saying online, because it may not have ill intent, but it could deter new people from coming. So
take a chance.
Take a chance. Is there like an ABBA song called Take a Chance on Me?
Thank you so much for tuning in to the City of Ottawa Nightlife podcast, Ottawa at Night. Keep up with the Nightlife office at ottawaatnight.ca and on Instagram at OTT Night Nuit. Until next time, Ottawa, stay out a little later and think before you comment. Comme vous avez probablement remarqué, nous utilisons le français et l'anglais comme c'est toute la coutume ici à Ottawa. And if you're looking for a completely accessible version of this podcast, you can go to the City of Ottawa's YouTube channel. And to learn more about accessibility, visit ottawaatnight.ca/podcast.